Hello. I'm aware that I never really put this car on the channel except the Drift Week videos, and it was not really in there much, but this is my SC300. Yeah, you got it. We originally built it for Drift Week. Mark built it for Drift Week. I bought parts. I drove it, and Mark drove, well, I drove it on Drift Week, and Mark drove it the whole way on the street. He street drove it for like his daily for a little while. He drove it from Houston to Austin, out to Tucson, Arizona, and also Albuquerque, and then back. I drifted on all the spots on Drift Week. And then COVID year happened, and I just like had so much stuff going on. We drove it at maybe a Gulf Greyhound Park event and Speed Sports, and it's been sitting ever since. And I just want to show you around the car. I'm selling it, and I'm super sad, but I get like all, because the car looks so cool. And it's a JZ car, and JZ cars are kind of at the end of their life now because they're so expensive that none of us really want to deal with that. I sold it for super cheap. I sold it for 10 grand. It sold in less than 5 minutes. I had more than 5 cash buyers within 5 minutes. Means I should have sold it for way more than that. It's going to someone that's doing Drift Week 3 up in the Pacific Northwest. So that's kind of cool. The whole purpose of this car was to make a Drift Week car that was super comfortable, would gobble up, 3,000 to 4,000 miles of street driving as well as possibly be super reliable. So we chose either an LS1 was gonna do that, a 350Z like VQ car, a V8. Those were the engine choices. The Lexus was gonna be a great choice for comfort and everything. So I kind of came about this platform because of those choices for Drift Week. Lexus would make it comfortable, JZ would make it reliable. The JZX100 would be a fantastic choice, but this is kind of like the poor man's JZX100 because they're a lot cheaper than JZX. And I guess that's about where that ended. I got it really cheap on Craigslist. It had a W58 in it, which we swapped over for an R154. And then we put wide body from KBD bumpers all the way around. It had a carbon fiber hood. I eventually changed that because we didn't like the hood very much. We wrapped it, put RPF 1s on it because I put RPF 1s on everything from NK. We went around, we put a spec clutch flywheel pressure plate setup in it so we wouldn't have to worry about it at all on the road. We put battle version control arms on it. One of the problems with SC300s, which is kind of crazy, is the front ball joints you can't replace. It's part of the lower control arm, and they're really expensive. So it's like $1,000 to do control arms on the front of these things. So we converted it over to the battle version ones, which are Mark III Supra ones, which those are really, really cheap, and it makes the car more maintainable. This is cool because all this stuff you can just like kick and it doesn't matter at all. But it is a little bit heavy, so you have to like mount it well. But it makes all this stuff crazy durable, which is super nice on a Drift Week car because you're going down the road, you're hitting like armadillos and stuff, and you don't want the fiberglass to blow to pieces. And move this pallet jack. There's a oh my God, I just ran over my toe. There's a pallet jack, or a GTR right there. The doors on these things are super heavy, but I wanted a full interior car that was comfortable and nice to do Drift Weekend. We got some of that stuff right. So we went with these NRG seats. They're leather, kind of fit the idea of like a nice, comfortable car. We did an R154 to keep it reliable, but it was really expensive. We got it from Drift Motion. It was, I want to say $2,500, but by the time all of it's done with the clutch and flywheel and pressure plate and all the other stuff, it's probably $4,500. We did a hydraulic handbrake to make that simple. The heating and cooling, I think for the most part works. Steering wheel, and then the rest of this is pretty much stock inside except for these. These LRB speed parts are really nice. The door cards just got super ghetto on this car and were falling apart. So Mark put these on the car and then put the window switches and the mirror controls right there, which is super cool. I really like that. The door hinges on SC300s are famous for being like 80 pounds. They're crazy. Look at how big this thing is. It's nuts. Ugh. So anyways, It did end up being a really good drift car. We had some overheating issues and ended up being a head gasket. Mark replaced the head gasket and the timing belts and everything. Worked out well for Drift Week. Let me show you this. Oh my God, this hood is like 90 pounds. So it's just a stock 1JZ with twin turbos. It made 370 wheel torque when it was really cold outside on the dyno, which is sitting right there. And it made like 350 wheel. True right there tuned it. I thought I posted the video and I guess I never did. I make so much YouTube content and don't even post it.
We couldn't turn it down below 15 pounds because it was cold out. And once you replace the exhaust on these, they just overboost. So
yeah,
that was as low as we could put it on gate.
But it made good power. Taurus fan, bigger radiator, front mount intercooler. And that's about it, which is kind of crazy because we have always done like crazy turbo setups and everything. And this is pretty simple. And it has an ECU master piggyback and brand new BC Racing coilovers. And it drove fantastic on the street. The biggest problems were we originally had solid subframe bushings and those were kind of too loud. Made the car really annoying. What else was wrong with it? I think that was the biggest thing. Oh, and the angle, the tires, these are 235, like 4017s, I think, or 18, sorry. Yeah, 235, 4018s. Those rubbed on everything up front. And that's with wide body, that's with a spacer and stuff, and with lower, like longer, lower front control arms. It's so sad to see the car go because in my heart, like I want it. This is as close as I'm ever gonna get to a Mark IV Supra and street drive it and do all that stuff. I kind of like the cockpit of this actually more than the Mark IV Supra. And it's really good to drift. I really do enjoy the car to drift. However, we live in 2021 now where these cars are getting expensive. 1JZs, R154s, everything is expensive now. And these make a lot less financial sense. I could be driving a Corvette for close to this price or like a Coyote Mustang or other things. And I love this, but they're kind of a lot better cars. And I don't know what else to say. I enjoyed the car. It worked well. It's sad to see it go. I don't know. The biggest thing to say about this car, I guess, is I love it. It looks cool. It's really cool to drive a JZ car in the street. But at the same time, I'm not sure what the car is meant for because I don't really get to do Drift Week in the same way as everyone else because I'm hosting it. And I meant for this to be a street car. And since I can't do Drift Week by driving on the street and everything because I have to be in charge of 4 enclosed trailers and all the logistics and like 6 employees and everything else, this ends up being more of like, I don't know how to say, like a car that I would operate on the street. Whereas most of my drift cars, you can't see them outside, but I have like 2 V8 cars that are caged, completely gutted, plus a bunch of the cars in Japan, plus a few other cars in here. And I have so many cars and I only have so much time to drive them. I just don't drive this thing. It just sits in storage. And I have another street car, which is an R32 GTS-T, which I also don't drive as a street car. My Corvettes I just got rid of because I wasn't driving them. I just don't have enough time because I'm so busy to drive this stuff. And I always end up driving my BMW daily or my Humvee daily. And I just don't ever drive this drift stuff. So there's not much of a reason for me to have a streetable drift car. And if I did, the Corvettes make so much more sense because they're so much easier to drift on the street, or like an E36, that the turbo cars, I just never end up driving them. Do you guys on YouTube, do you ever like want something really badly, get it like this car, and then you don't end up using it and you feel bad and you don't relate to it or get your use out of it and you just end up selling it? I think probably a lot of us do. I don't think I captured something well enough. It's the feeling of like getting rid of a toy you really liked the idea of. Maybe you didn't play with enough or like use enough, like a boat or like a jet ski or a dirt bike or a drift car or whatever, because life, like I'm having a baby, just got a house, like you're doing all these things and I want to enjoy this thing. I want to drive it around, but instead I end up editing Drift Week footage. I end up dealing with like sponsor stuff. I end up like setting up track dates. I'm doing like, I think 17 days of track time that I'm hosting within 70 days or something like that. So I'm so busy promoting the events, dealing with drivers, setting up Drift Week, setting up Lone Star Drift round 1 through whatever, dealing with all the associated stuff because of COVID and stuff. all the stress of it. Like, I built this car to enjoy. It's exactly what I wanted out of this car. It's the color, it's the body kit, it's the look, it's the wheels, it's the suspension, it's the parts, it's the interior. Like, I built this for me. I know I'm not gonna get to drive it much in the next like year or two. Even if I drove 5 or 6 times this year at events, I would probably end up taking my V8 cars and I would not have time for this. Same thing with the R32. I just know I'm not gonna get to drive it. I know I'm gonna be at home working on like stuff and like dealing with baby stuff and everything and house stuff. I have to be an adult and I have to get rid of it. And I can't just count on my friends to help me store everything because I already have like 5 or 6 cars here. I had cars in Houston. This thing has been stored by a friend, Mark Williams, now for a year and a half or something like that. And I can't just, make everybody store everything for me and help out because it takes like their life energy away from them and everything. It takes effort and I can't ask everybody to do that. So anyways, that's the feeling I have right now is I don't want to get rid of this thing. I know that I will never get another one of these, which is like my baby Mark IV Supra. I know I'm just not going to get a chance, not going to have it. This is like going away. I didn't get the chance to enjoy it. I feel crappy about that. I feel really crappy that I had a friend of mine, Mark, like do a ton of work to this car and that I didn't enjoy it. I didn't get to use it enough. I built Drift Week specifically so I could do the adventure that I wanted, and then I have to be like the janitor that works on it, and I don't even get to use the Drift Week car that I built for the damn event. Not to be like pouty or anything, but like I do all this stuff. I end up instead like making hats and making t-shirts and making sweatshirts and booking things and everything else. And in the end, I don't even get to drive the stupid car I built. Anyways, sounds pouty, but it's not. I'm just explaining how the whole thing is. And I have to get rid of the Drift Week car so I can afford to host Drift Weeks. This is the dumbest thing ever. It makes me sound like an idiot. True's over there laughing at me.
Sound like.